everybody. My name is Julie, and I think that no one should slave over worksheets. So I wrote a guide for learning math from everyday life. Because when the world is your classroom, you're free to learn math that matters. And today I'm here to help you get started. Here we go.
This is Everyday Mathematics Part 1: How to Follow a Child's Curiosity to Conquer Your Math Anxiety and Help Them Succeed in Math. Before we get started on the content, I just wanted to tell you a little tiny bit about myself and also the assumptions I've made about you. I have graduate degrees in engineering and curriculum and instruction. I am parent to two kids, one who has special needs and one who lives with a lot of anxiety. And I wrote an ebook about learning math from everyday life, which is designed for parents. You want your child to find joy and success in learning and life. That's the first assumption I've made. And the other one is that you might be a little nervous about helping with math. So I like to think about my fear of creepy crawlies and bugs when I think about anxiety about different subjects. When my kids were toddlers, they would poke around in the dirt and find bugs and pull them out of the dirt and show me very proudly their discoveries. But I was really, really uncomfortable with that because I don't like bugs. But I didn't want my discomfort about bugs to squash their curiosity because I recognized that love of learning and joy that they found when they were playing in that dirt. So I worked to notice all sorts of things when we were playing outside and bugs were part of our lives. And I learned to name all of the different bugs that we found, and I started reading a lot of books. And the main reason I bring up my fear of creepy crawlies is that I think that a lot of people feel the same way about math as I feel about bugs. It's a little squirmy. It makes them feel kind of uncomfortable. They don't really know what to do about it, but they don't want their feelings to get in the way of their kids' learning. Early learning, and dare I say all learning, has its roots in experience and language. So learning about creepy crawlies with my kids was rooted in our experiences that I made sure that we continued to have. Things like digging in the dirt, gardening, which I am not very good at gardening, but we gave it a try because it's fun to be out there planting seeds and playing in the dirt and seeing something grow if you're lucky enough to have something grow. And in all of that, noticing all the bugs. The language that we learned was talking about what I saw, what I felt, and reading books about bugs and learning their names, their habitats, everything about them. And all of this was done within the context of my relationship with my child. If we strengthen our relationship with the subject, perhaps done in concert with our child, then everyone learns. So I like to think about 3 different relationships in any learning context, and this is my model that comes to mind. I know it's very mathy because it's a triangle, but these 3 relationships are the one between the learner and the teacher, the one between the teacher and the subject, and the relationship between the learner and the subject. And I like to think of these, especially when we're approaching a subject that we're not totally familiar with. So the 2 relationships of the teacher. This is where our power resides because we're part of these relationships. The first one is the teacher and the learner, so you and your kiddo. And the other one is between the teacher and the subject. If our teacher learner relationship is tight, then you can approach the subject hand in hand. In order to have a tight relationship, there has to be trust. The learner has to trust the teacher, and the teacher has to trust the learner. You should be comfortable with one another. You should have a degree of attachment and security and safeness together so that you can approach a subject that's unfamiliar. And a lot of this is rooted in communication, talking, sign language, texting if you have an older kid, and a great place for conversations is in the car. You can do all of this work on your relationship with your kid in a variety of ways, talking about a variety of things. And if it's tight, you get to approach the subject together. The teacher-subject relationship is that second one you have control over. Your knowledge, or maybe you feel lack thereof, and your feelings toward the subject. And the things that you can do to strengthen your relationship with the subject, regardless of what your learner is doing, you can still work on this yourself. The first thing to do is to try to work on it. You have to be brave to try something that maybe makes you uncomfortable, but it's the first thing that you have to do is try. You can read about the subject. I have read children's books about a gazillion different topics, not only bugs, but history, art, math, lots of other sciences, and things like that. You can watch videos. YouTube and documentaries are full of all sorts of interesting and wonderful things that you can find about the subject you're trying to learn a little bit about. You can also get help from someone. If you live near a university, you could go ask to meet somebody who works there. We spent some time with the entomologists and zoologists when we were learning about bugs. There are also other private places. I mean, there are zoos and museums, and generally the people who work there are happy to talk about the things about which they're passionate. And finding the right support for these relationships is kind of our job as the teacher. So let's consider the supports for this model of the teacher-learner-subject triangle of relationships. So you're looking for supports, and let's consider how the support will influence your relationship with your child and your relationship with the subject. What types of things might offer integrated support? Well, my favorite thing is to read books together, because not only do I learn about the subject and the learner learns something about the subject, but also reading books together is one of my family's favorite ways to spend time together. So reading works on all of those three relationships. Watching videos together, again, popping a thing of popcorn and watching something together to learn. Solving problems together. Now, when I say solving problems, it could be something as simple as planning a pizza party for a few families, and calculating the number of pieces of pizzas and then pizzas that you have to order to feed everybody. And I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you to scoot over to my website to look for ideas about books and games and toys and tools for exploring math, to find some support for tightening your relationship with your learner, with the subject, and even something that would make your learner approach the subject on their own, some sort of provocation. Everyday math. It is, I want to say that it is okay to outsource math learning, but I'd like to invite you to consider these small things: everyday math experiences, finding something that is the equivalent to digging in the dirt. And when you're doing that, I want you to look for the numbers and shapes and the problems to solve in your everyday life. It might have to do with time management, money management, or something else, which I will get to in our next video. And everyday math language. Try talking to your kid and use math words like add and subtract. Divide the toys, divide the food. Just use some of those mathy words when you're talking to your kids. And one of the most important ones is when you're problem solving together, say, let's figure it out. That is one of the most important things in any math endeavor, is figuring it out and using that math vocabulary to do it as best as you can. And again, I'm going to say to read some books, because the books have the math vocabulary for you to learn. And remember, if you're doing this in the context of your relationship with your child, then everyone learns. That's it for now. That's part 1, following a child's curiosity and considering the relationships in any learning endeavor. In part 2, I'm going to talk about what experiences will spark your child's curiosity in math and what you should look for when your child accepts those invitations. See you next time.
That's it for today. Stay tuned. The next video will be all about finding math in everyday life and a little bit about what to do about it when you find it. Don't be scared. It's not as squirmy as a centipede, I swear. All right, see you next time.